Hey friends, my name is Joseph Rahm and I'm the lead pastor of Eastside Christian Fellowship. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I'm honored by your desire to learn more about who we are as a church and where we believe God is leading us. And because you're watching this video, then you likely consider yourself a part of this body of believers, are considering joining us, or for one reason or another have a special interest in learning more about who we are and where we're going. If you've been following our recent communication, then you know that we are in a vision renewal process, which we are calling NextChapter. The entire purpose of NextChapter is to implement what we believe are the necessary changes in order to appropriately and successfully respond to God's call to make disciples throughout the Puget Sound, particularly here on the east side. The following video will give you insight into one specific aspect of NextChapter. My hope and prayer is that you would not only be encouraged by the direction God is leading this church, but that you would also consider how the Holy Spirit may be leading you to become more involved in joining with us in making disciples. I hope you enjoy the following video and find it helpful in learning more about who we are and where we're going. Thanks. The purpose of this first video is to provide an explanation and summary of NextChapter. More specifically, my hope is that in these next few minutes, I'll provide answers to the following questions. First, what is NextChapter? Second, why has leadership determined that making changes is in the church's best interest? And third, what does this mean for you? In other words, what changes can you expect and how will it impact you? Let's get started in answering these questions. First, what is NextChapter? Put simply, NextChapter is a vision renewal effort. The purpose of renewing our church's vision is to ensure that we're doing everything possible to align our efforts with what God is doing to make disciples here in the Pacific Northwest. The result is that throughout the fall of 2022 and in the winter and spring of 2023, our church will be making intentional changes and shifts so that we're more prepared and equipped to make disciples. We will continue sharing in more detail what that means specifically, but for now it's important that you understand that NextChapter is focused on renewing our vision so that we are able to most successfully make disciples. Now, the second question, why has leadership determined that making changes is in the church's best interest? In the spring of 2022, as it felt like life was returning to some level of normalcy after an extended season of uncertainty, I began to sense God leading me and therefore this church's leadership on a journey of discovering what changes may place us in a better position to fulfill the Lord's call on this church. This led me to read numerous books, listen to countless podcasts, speak with various pastors and church leaders, explore the data and trends in church attendance, and consider the specific culture that exists in the Pacific Northwest. After investing dozens of hours into learning, the elders and I began an intentional process of discerning what changes could help us be most equipped to make disciples in this time and in this place. The foundation for these changes is the gospel of Jesus Christ. At the end of Matthew's gospel account, Jesus' last words to his disciples are, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." And while these words were directly spoken to Jesus' disciples, we believe that they're also God's words to the local church today. That is, God's call for those who profess faith in Jesus Christ and desire to follow him is this: go and make disciples. Now, it doesn't take a seminary degree or a PhD in anthropology to recognize the challenges of this call in a place like the Pacific Northwest. For a variety of reasons, what has worked in making disciples for the past 4 or 5 decades often does not work in the culture and society we find ourselves in today. That is, the strategy of inviting friends and neighbors to a Sunday service where the band will play great music, the preacher will deliver a knockout sermon, and the body will provide an amazing fellowship experience that will convince visitors to commit to regular attendance. This no longer works for the majority of people around us. There are many reasons for this, but this short video is not the place to explore them in detail. Now, I'm not discouraging you from inviting someone to church. Please continue to extend invitations where and when appropriate. Nor am I minimizing the importance of great worship, accurate and engaging biblical teaching, and great fellowship. We still need all of these things. Yet, I am suggesting that the local church in the Pacific Northwest must consider new ways of engaging culture if we're going to be successful in making disciples. It is for this reason that NextChapter was born. Now, I'd like to make one point of clarification before moving on to the last question. I want to acknowledge that for some of you, there will be a strong temptation to assume certain things throughout the implementation of NextChapter. For example, some of you may assume that this church is moving toward a seeker-friendly model, which does everything possible to attract new people. I assure you, friends, this is not the case. This church is committed to the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the reality of our sin and God's grace, and the necessity of communicating that message to as many people as possible. And yet, there is great need to use a variety of tools, techniques, and strategies in engaging the lost who exist all around us. And this, once again, is the motivation behind NextChapter. Now, for the third and final question, what does this mean for you? In other words, what changes can you expect and how will it impact you? Allow me to get straight to the point. There are 5 specific areas that I believe you will see changes leading up to and shortly after we occupy this new building sometime in the spring of 2023, Lord willing. In the coming weeks, I will release 5 other videos, one for each area of change, but for now, I'll introduce them at a high level. First, you can expect to see small but significant shifts in church culture, including a possible name change or things like reprioritizing our work outside the walls of the church throughout the week. Think back to the Other 6 Days sermon series for those of you who've been with us for a number of years. We're considering a name change for the church and more to come on this in the coming weeks. We'd love to see increased commitment and engagement from the body in determining outreach efforts and opportunities. The list goes on, so stay tuned for more information. Second, we're considering looking at our liturgy, which just means our order and experiencing creativity in Sunday services. Liturgy and creativity are not words that often go together, yet liturgy at its foundation simply means order. So we're going to make some intentional shifts regarding the order of our Sunday services, and yet we want to simultaneously allow space for creativity and the Holy Spirit to work. Again, we'll release a video in the coming weeks with more detail. Number 3, community groups and service groups. The focus of our community groups currently is on fellowship and spiritual growth. Both great and necessary things for the church body, and yet community groups are not often a space where many visitors feel welcome. So we plan to make an intentional shift to transition some or most of our church's community groups to service groups, meeting a couple times per month with a focus on food and service, something that visitors will hopefully feel more excited about joining. Don't worry, there will still be space for traditional community groups. More to come on that in the future. Fourthly, midweek programming. Once we land in the new building, we want to use it throughout the week to engage the neighborhoods and community around us. We have a lot of ideas, but we'll also lean heavily on you to help us determine what is most needed and what may be most successful in getting people to come to our building. While this change is still many months away, we do want to encourage you to start thinking about this now. And number 5, church leadership. One thing that has become clear to me over these past couple of years is how much focus our elders put into administration of the church. While this is not necessarily a bad thing, it does take away from the time our elders are spending shepherding the flock. Our vision is to refocus the energy of the elders on shepherding, while simultaneously engaging a greater number of you in leading the church in other areas. So, as previously mentioned, these changes will be discussed in greater detail in videos that will be released in the coming weeks. For now, as I mentioned at the church picnic recently, I'd like to invite you to participate in 3 specific ways. First, engage and commit to the body here at ECF. Secondly, be intentionally patient and flexible. And third, join us in praying and trusting that the Holy Spirit will lead us and guide us. So friends, thank you for watching this video. I'm so honored that you've chosen to participate in following God as He leads this church body. I feel confident that when we honor the Lord by following His leading, that He will be faithful in blessing us. I look forward to sharing more of this journey with you in the coming weeks and to seeing how God continues to guide us in making disciples. Thank you, and God bless.